Like any other winter morning in Melbourne, Monday the 4th of August 1986 started with a bustling cityscape filled with the sounds of trams and the movement of early morning workers. As the day progressed, the peak hour rush began to fade, and by 10 a.m. the National Gallery of Victoria opened its doors to the public. The director of the gallery, Patrick McCaughey, had been immersed in a series of long and exhausting meetings in the city, and at 11 a.m. he received an urgent call demanding his immediate presence at the gallery. By the time McCaughey arrived, a crowd had already gathered at the entrance. The head of security approached him, and in a trembling voice, informed the director that Picasso's Weeping Woman, which was mounted on the wall of the National Gallery of Victoria when its doors closed at 5 p.m. on Saturday, was gone. Picasso, a name that echoes through history as one of the greatest and most recognizable artists the world has ever known. Unlike many other creatives, he achieved unparalleled fame and fortune during his lifetime. In 2015, his masterpiece, Les Femmes d'Alger, sold for a staggering $170 million at auction, making the acquisition of his piece, The Weeping Woman, by the National Gallery of Victoria, for a mere $1.6 million in 1985, a steal in comparison to its now over $100 million valuation. It was whilst at home in his Parisian apartment studio that Picasso first heard about the bombing of the small Spanish town of Guernica. Carried out by the German Luftwaffe as part of the Spanish Civil War, Pablo turned to his muse, Dora Maar, and painted a number of different versions of the now famous Weeping Woman in response to the bombing. Passing through a number of owners, the acquisition of the artwork by the National Gallery of Victoria in early 1986 drew criticism. The $1.6 million fee was the highest price ever paid by an Australian gallery at the time. Eager to catch a glimpse of the famous artwork, museum goers flocked to the gallery early that cold Monday morning. With no broken doors or smashed glass, which one might come to expect in the aftermath of an art heist. Instead, the only thing that seemed out of place was the empty space on the wall where the artwork had once hung. A small cardboard register card, innocently placed in its spot, read, "This artwork has been removed to the ACT for regular maintenance." Initially, the explanation seemed reasonable enough to the first few arrivals that morning. After all, the Australian Capital Territory, or ACT, was home to many of the nation's most prestigious art galleries. However, it wasn't until the head of security spotted the card that the situation became dubious, and so began one of the most bewildering and unexplainable art heists the world has ever known. The ringing phones throughout the building were incessant, echoing the growing sense of desperation and urgency. The crowds had swelled, and Director McCaughey knew that a crisis meeting was imperative. As they tried to make sense of the situation, rumors began to spread like wildfire. Was it an inside job? The work of notorious international art smugglers? Or just a senseless prank? Despite so few immediate answers, the case was about to take a bizarre turn. McCaughey sat in his office, barely able to sleep the night before. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to him, 4 carefully handwritten letters had begun their journey to 4 of Melbourne's leading media outlets. The phone rings. The head publisher of the Age newspaper informs McCaughey, "We have received a ransom letter." Sent by a group calling themselves the Australian Cultural Terrorists, or the ACT. The letters stated they had stolen the painting and now had it in their possession. Addressed to the State Minister for Arts, Race Matthews, The group proclaimed their disdain for what they saw as the clumsy, unimaginative stupidity of the administration. Their demands were clear: more funding for the arts and a prize for young Australian artists. The consequences of non-compliance were made quite clear. The group would burn the artwork if their demands were not met within a week. Nobody knows exactly how it happened. It's Saturday afternoon, the 2nd of August 1986. At this time of year in Melbourne, the sun will begin to set soon. The thief blends in, just another man on the street. Arriving at the gallery before its doors close to the public at 5 p.m., he enters. The swelling Saturday crowds provide the thief with the perfect cover. Why would any in the world suspect him? As the sun outside starts to set, the echoes of voices within the gallery halls begin to slowly fade. Ascending the stairs up to the second level, he enters the main foyer dedicated to 20th century art. It's there, against a detached feature wall in the center of the room, where Picasso's masterpiece hangs. Like everyone else in the gallery that day, the unknown thief lingers in front of the artwork, studying it, captivated by it, until abruptly, a voice over the PA system instructs the patrons that the gallery will be closing soon, and for everyone to make their way to the exit. As the few remaining people within the gallery slowly leave the building, the thief does something nobody else in the gallery does that day. He instead stays. With no CCTV to worry about, he heads to the bathroom to wait until the coast is clear. With there only a single night patrol security guard assigned to the whole second level, it's only a matter of time until he can emerge from the shadows and return to the painting. Without making a sound, and using a very specific anti-theft screwdriver, which is not available to the public, the thief carefully unscrews the artwork from the wall and lowers it to the ground. Reaching into their pocket, he pulls out a small register card, placing it in the same spot the multi-million-dollar artwork once hung. With no motion sensor alarms, CCTV or security hot on his tail, the thief calmly walks back to the bathroom where he has the rest of the night to separate the canvas from the frame, before slipping away into the crowd of people the following morning. Or so that is how the leading theory goes. In the days following, police will search the entire complex without uncovering anything more than the disposed of frame. The director of the gallery and the state government held firm against the ransom notes, which only served to disgruntle the Australian cultural terrorists even further. 5 days following the revelation that the painting was indeed missing, a second and third ransom letters appeared at the head office of the Age newspaper. Director McGaughey was waiting by the phone when he received the call telling him that an envelope had arrived, containing a burnt matchstick and more promises from the ACT to burn the painting if the demands were not met. It had been 2 weeks since the theft when the phone at the Melbourne police station rang. Go to Spencer Street Railway Station. There you will find the Weeping Woman, hidden in locker 227. In a frantic rush, the police, press, and gallery staff rushed to the location. When police opened the locker, they found a neat brown paper parcel. There it was, without a burn, slash, rip, or tear. Picasso's Weeping Woman, after 18 days, had been located within a train station locker as the result of an anonymous tip-off. No great international goose hunt, no shootout with the police, no ring of underground art smugglers. Instead, the great Picasso caper had come to an end in a manner just as mysterious as it started. The case is closed, and to this day there have been no arrests or even a single formal suspect. Despite this, anyone who is anyone in the Melbourne art scene has their own theory, as throughout the years the rumors have become so entwined with fact that it's near impossible to separate the two. Could it have been a Melbourne-based artist who became so embroiled in debt that he forged the painting, stole the original, sold the forgery to underground art smugglers under the guise of it being genuine, and then returned the artwork to the gallery before fleeing the country a few $1 million richer? Perhaps. But the most persistent rumor is the one which states Melbourne-based artist Mark Housen is the one who stole the artwork. And it goes like this. It's a few days before the painting is eventually found, and by this stage, all involved in the case are beginning to lose hope. The director of the gallery, Patrick McCaughey, was enjoying a dinner party when he received a call from a young art dealer, Anna Schwartz. She had called to tell him that a young artist she knew, Mark Housen, had been talking a lot about the theft and may know more information. It was a dark and stormy night. Finding Housen's inner-city studio unlocked, McCaughey entered. The walls were covered with newspaper cuttings and headlines of the theft. Slightly taken aback, McCaughey quickly explained to Housen that he was moving around the Melbourne art scene to put the word out that he is not interested in prosecuting the thief. He purposely made it a point that if it turned up in a locker at Spencer Street Station, that would be an end to the matter as far as he was concerned. Housen is calm and composed and agrees with McCaughey, telling him that he will let him know if he hears anything. As McCaughey is about to exit the studio, Housen turns to him and says, "It's funny, to be honest, I had almost completely forgotten about the whole thing," a comment in such contradiction to the newspaper clippings strewn across his studio. 2 days following, the artwork is located at Spencer Street Station, and the caper comes to an end. Housen proclaims his innocence, but seems to an extent unfazed about the notoriety McCaughey's claims has brought him, fairly asserting that, how daft would a thief have to be to return something they had stolen to the location the owner had asked them to? 37 years later, there have been no further leads, and to this day, the true story of how a $100 million Picasso painting simply walked out of one of Australia's most prestigious art galleries may never be fully known.